Welcome back to the Missing 411 podcast. Tonight, we are traversing the boundaries of reality, delving into the American wilderness, a place you think you know, a place that promises peace and majesty. But beneath the towering pines and the silent canyons, there is an unsettling pattern emerging. This pattern is one of bizarre disappearances that defy all known science and police protocol. We are talking about cases where the evidence is either non-existent or utterly contradictory, hinting at forces beyond our comprehension. This phenomenon, which some researchers call dimensional rifts and others attribute to cryptids, is what we here call the vanishing zone. We are looking at cold cases that whisper of something far beyond human error, criminality, or even the harsh elements. These are the mysteries that haunt the national parks and the vast forests, spanning decades and distances. Whether it's the sudden, inexplicable absence of an individual or the discovery of a body under impossible circumstances, the answer always points to the same dark place. Something is systematically taking people from the high deserts, the snowy peaks, and the humid swamps. And for reasons we cannot fathom, this mysterious force is not giving them back. Let's start our unsettling investigation in the rugged peaks of Idaho, where the truth is as thin as the air. The Caribou-Targhee National Forest in Idaho stretches across 3 million unforgiving acres. It is a massive, wild expanse, known primarily for its sheer rugged beauty. But for investigators and the family of Christopher Lynn Halston, it represents an enigma. In 1998, this forest became the backdrop for the chilling disappearance of 21-year-old Chris. He was, by all accounts, a typical young man, recently graduated from high school and working at a local restaurant. His disappearance that May night would shatter the tranquility of the Idaho wilderness forever. The timeline starts innocently on the evening of May 17, 1998. Chris was camping with a large group, consisting of 7 friends and 1 adult, near the Kelly Canyon ski resort. They settled in at the Table Rock campground, a quiet, grassy meadow surrounded by towering pines and aspen trees. As night fell, the typical party atmosphere was quickly replaced by a sudden deterioration in the weather. Snow began to cover the grounds, and sleet started to fall, setting an ominous scene. This change in environment often seems to coincide with the opening of a vanishing zone. Chris allegedly left the group's tent sometime between 9:30 p.m. and midnight. We know that several friends claimed he had tripped over a tent rope on his way out, a small, unremarkable detail that everyone teased him about. However, this is where the facts first begin to break down, a signature of these missing 411 cases. The campers, the very people who were closest to Chris, cannot agree on what happened next. Some have steadfastly maintained that Chris had become involved in a heated argument with 1 or more individuals in the group that evening. Conversely, others have just as adamantly claimed that Chris simply walked off without fighting or engaging with anyone at all. This deep contradiction among eyewitnesses is often intentional, perhaps a defense mechanism of the human mind trying to process a shocking, impossible event. The accounts agree on one thing, though: Chris walked off in an unspecified direction, a habit that was characteristic of him. As it was reported, he often took off unannounced. But the critical difference this time was that he always returned, except for this time. The man never came back from his walk. He never collected his Chevy pickup from his friend's house where he had left it, and he didn't have any of his other personal belongings with him. Adding to the emotional complexity, it was revealed that Chris's parents were separating, but friends felt he didn't seem upset enough to simply run away permanently. The search that ensued yielded virtually nothing. The only piece of credible evidence was a single, unconfirmed sighting from a driver at the camp who reported seeing a tall person matching Chris's description standing by a vehicle. This person was allegedly wearing a blue tracksuit with a white stripe. Beyond that fleeting, unverified glimpse, there has been no new evidence for the past 26 years. This led to 2 starkly opposing theories. The first, and most conventional, suggests that Chris, wearing only a light jacket in the rough weather and without a flashlight, simply succumbed to the elements. Yet, locals and regular campers insisted it was extremely difficult to get truly lost in that particular open-wooded area. The second theory, far more sinister, suggests that the camping group was hiding a dark secret. This theory postulates that something happened that night, and the campers fabricated their initial, slightly conflicting story. In the years that followed, this story seemed to evolve and splinter, giving rise to serious allegations about sketchy behavior at the party and in the days that followed. Though no one has explicitly claimed murder, the rumors still run rampant, suggesting a deep cover-up. Allegations even surfaced in social media groups that the stepfather of one of the teenagers had threatened the group into silence. Furthermore, that same stepfather was rumored to have information he wanted to bring forth, but tragically passed away before he was ever able to do so, locking the potential truth away forever. These remain unproven allegations, but they paint a picture of confusion and fear, the kind of psychological residue often left behind when a human being encounters the impossible. At the time of his vanishing, Chris Lynn Halston was 6 feet, 2 inches tall, weighing about 155 pounds, with brown hair and brown eyes. For now, the truth remains trapped in the cold, high woods of Idaho. Our investigation now takes us to a place where the air hums with a different kind of strangeness, the Santa Fe National Forest in New Mexico. This is a massive 1.6 million acres of high desert valleys, mountains, and mesas, a truly wild landscape that ranges from 5,000 to 13,000 feet in elevation. Since 2017, the forest has been home to a peculiar phenomenon, the increasing appearance of intricate man-made structures. These were made of downed wood, appearing like teepees, some 2 or 3 stories tall, but too small to shelter a human. Forest officials have found at least 8 of these massive, inexplicable structures littered across the park, each one built with an estimated 1,000 pieces of wood. Whoever was making them needed to be caught, but no one ever was. Clearly, the Santa Fe National Forest is not just a recreational area. It is a place that holds secrets, perhaps secrets related to its most prominent unsolved case, the disappearance of Melvin Nadell. The air of high strangeness was already palpable when Mel went bow hunting here. It was September 6, 2009, and Mel was in the Elk Mountain area of the forest with 2 friends. Mel was a prepared outdoorsman, carrying a .44 caliber revolver, his camouflage marten bow, and zebra-striped arrows. He was wearing camouflage, thermal socks, boots, and even a Lucky 13 pendant. The time of his disappearance is precise. At 4:30 p.m. that day, Mel told his friends he wouldn't be going far and would be back before nightfall. But unlike Chris Halston, Mel had left something crucial behind. He didn't return that night or ever. When investigators found Mel's Jeep Cherokee, his backpack, cell phone, and his essential GPS unit were inside. This detail was immediately unusual to his hunting companion. Mel had been lost once before, and after that incident, he never strayed far without his GPS. The fact that he was walking a route he used regularly, yet left his primary safety device behind, suggests a sudden, involuntary disruption to his plans. The official conclusion was that Mel was either lost or injured in the vast wilderness. But the anomalies didn't end there. Alan Pacho, a veteran searcher for missing individuals in New Mexico, investigated Mel's vanishing. Following a tip from an amateur psychic who felt something wasn't right in the area, Pacho focused on the Ponderosa Elk Mountain region. It was here that Pacho conducted a truly bizarre experiment. Pacho made use of a Geiger counter near an old fire pit in his search area. The readings on the device suddenly spiked before the equipment failed completely. After leaving the immediate vicinity, the Geiger counter inexplicably began working perfectly again. This led Pacho to a chilling hypothesis, that a dimensional rift, or as he described it, a portal, had momentarily opened in that spot. Mel Nadell may not have been lost. He may have been instantly taken. This area is known locally as the Pecos Triangle, yet another place where people have a strange habit of disappearing under similar, impossible fashions. Many locals have reported seeing UFOs, strange lights, disembodied voices, and even odd human-like creatures. Mel Nadell's case is now intertwined with the park's deepest secrets. He was 5 feet, 2 inches tall, and weighed 135 pounds, and was last seen wearing his camouflage gear. His case remains active and officially unsolved, held captive by the secrets of the New Mexico mountains. The sheer impossibility of the evidence, a hunter leaving his GPS, the Geiger counter spike, the contradictory testimonies. It all suggests a singular, unsettling truth. We are dealing with dimensional rifts. These are not simply tragic accidents. They are patterned disappearances tied to geographic anomalies. We believe certain locations are naturally occurring nexuses, thin spots where the veil between our reality and another is easily torn. These tears, perhaps caused by subterranean energy fields, are short-lived, silent, and invisible, and they seem to be attracted to people who are already emotionally compromised or facing a moment of intense concentration. They are not merely taking people. They are erasing them. The individual simply walks into a patch of forest where the forest ceases to be a forest, and instead becomes a moment in time or another dimension entirely. This is the common thread, the shared DNA of every single case we cover tonight. We now move to a case that seems to prove the idea of the echo disappearance, where one tragedy seems to pave the way for the next. The town of Silver Plume, Colorado, once a bustling silver mining camp, is now an almost living ghost town, known for its twin mysteries. The first began in 1987 with the vanishing of bookstore owner Tom Young and his dog Gus, who simply disappeared after stating he was going on vacation to Europe. 10 months later, Tom's remains were found on Republican Mountain, just outside of Silver Plume. The circumstances surrounding their passing were strange, but the case was ultimately closed. Enter Keith Richard, a former sports reporter, who moved into Tom's old bookshop and opened an antique store just 9 months after Tom vanished. Keith quickly grew obsessed with the case, a key factor in our ongoing investigation. Keith began asking everyone in town about Tom, and his obsession was so consuming that he based a character in his novel on the mysterious disappearance. His daughter, Tiffany, later noted the dark irony. Authors often like to live the story of their characters. This is precisely what happened with Keith. 1 week after Tom and Gus were discovered on the mountain, Keith closed his shop at 2:30 p.m. Keith began walking around town, telling his acquaintances that he intended to hike and climb nearby Pendleton Mountain. He even stopped to speak with Ted Parker, a cafe owner he had known for 40 years. Keith told Ted he was embarking on this hike, but Ted didn't take him seriously. Why? Because it was far too late in the afternoon to begin a 6-hour climb to the 7,654-foot summit. Furthermore, Keith was utterly unprepared for such a journey. He was only wearing a flannel shirt, jeans, and tennis shoes. He had no supplies, no jacket, and no GPS. He was last seen heading toward Pendleton Mountain. That evening, Keith never returned. The next day, a massive search operation began, involving helicopters and 125 men, along with trained dogs, all combing the terrain. The search was fruitless. No clues were unearthed as to where Keith may have gone. The Colorado Alpine Rescuers, who had operated for 30 years and never failed to find a missing person, were left stumped. The only clue left behind was his unfinished novel, still open on his computer. His final, chilling words read, "Guy Gypsum changed into some hiking boots and donned a heavy flannel shirt. He understood Tom now and his motivation." Guy closed the door, then walked off toward the lush, shadowless Colorado forest above. Did Keith Richard simply become another victim of the mountain? Or did the same dimensional rift or time warp mystery that claimed Tom Young sense Keith's emotional connection to the mystery? It is as if the dark force of that mountain range, a nexus of strange energy, consumed those who sought to understand it too closely. Keith Richard was last seen on August 7, 1988, standing 6 feet tall and weighing 210 pounds. Our investigation into the dark heart of the American wilderness continues to the Mark Twain National Forest in Missouri. This is a vast, 1.5 million acre landscape that is said to be the domain of hellhounds and other demonic creatures, a locus of dark and deeply unsettling energy. It was here that Robert C. Garman vanished in September 1995. The details surrounding Robert's case are plentiful yet conflicting, another classic sign of a vanishing zone event. Robert, who was 33 at the time, traveled to the Ozarks with a female friend from Hot Springs, Arkansas. They ultimately attended a party with 15 other individuals in the Mark Twain Forest, close to Chadwick. This was not a quick gathering, but a Bene party, one that lasted for several days. Witnesses reported seeing Robert arguing with another male and a female acquaintance. After this confrontation, he and his female friend left the event and were last seen walking into a campground on September 24th. And then, Robert was never seen again. 2 days later, horseback riders found the female companion. She was disoriented, bruised, and spoke of an attack that had left Robert critically wounded. The woman had no knowledge of who attacked them, nor did any of the 15 guests who had attended the party. Adding to the profound strangeness is that no one knows who originally reported the two missing, but someone did. Furthermore, Robert lived 4.5 hours away, making his decision to travel that far for a party seem highly unusual. Investigators also discovered that Robert was occasionally using an alias, one that added another layer of convolution to an already murky case. The last confirmed sighting of Robert was when he and his companion walked into the woods. The female friend's story is the only source of information. There is zero physical evidence to suggest anything happened. No DNA. No fingerprints. Nothing. Despite the high volume of visitors to the area, no one ever came across Robert. This leads to an unsettling conclusion. Robert C. Garman was not simply injured, he was removed. Whether by the reported demonic energy of the forest, or by a localized, chaotic dimensional rift targeting the site of intense interpersonal conflict, Robert was simply erased from the timeline. At 33, he was 5 feet 11 inches tall and had numerous tattoos. Our tour of the high strangeness moves to the west coast, to the Klamath National Forest and Butte Valley National Grassland, stretching over an immense 1.7 million acres in Northern California and Southern Oregon. This incredibly diverse region is famous for the Klamath River and its rugged geology, but it's also a place where quite a few disappearances have occurred, particularly in Siskiyou County. Our focus here is on the case of Marie Louise Andrew. On August 20th, 1987, Marie left Davis, California, in a highly agitated state following an argument of an unknown nature. She was wearing a tan jacket or sweater, blue jeans, and yellow earrings. Although she left that day, she wasn't officially reported missing until September 5th, 16 days later, giving the search an immediate and fatal handicap. It was on the day she was reported missing that her car was found abandoned on a forest road in the Beaver Creek region of the Klamath National Forest. This area falls deep within Siskiyou County. A fish and game officer discovered the vehicle and called Marie's family. Local law enforcement claimed they had seen her car as early as August 20th, meaning it sat untouched in the forest for 2 weeks before being formally investigated. Adding to the timeline's confusion, a store owner near the Klamath River area stated he saw Marie around the same time she was reported to have left home. This witness reported that Marie had asked him about local campgrounds. An extensive search of the surrounding areas ensued, but there were no signs of the missing 37-year-old woman. Marie's case is classified under suspicious circumstances, leaving several critical questions unanswered. Who was the argument with? Did that individual follow her, or arrange for her to be intercepted? Crucially, it was never determined if cadaver dogs were used to pick up her scent, nor was it confirmed if she went to any of the campgrounds she inquired about. The official record has very little information, a frustrating hallmark of a vanishing that occurs in the deep woods. Marie had no known medical conditions, but she was visibly upset when she left. Was that emotional vulnerability a signal? Was the agitation enough to draw the attention of whatever dark force patrols the Siskiyou County forests? Or was she simply consumed by the massive, unforgiving landscape that day? Case 6. Roger Sarr and Jacob Olivier, Everglades NP, 2011. The Everglades National Park in southern Florida is the largest subtropical wilderness in the U.S., a maze of swamps and mangroves. This park is a hotbed of strange activity, with over 200 homicides since 1965, and a reputation for being a site of FBI investigations. The vastness of this 1.5 million acre park makes it an ideal spot for mysterious disappearances. One such case is that of Roger Sarr, a 67-year-old experienced outdoorsman from Oregon, who disappeared mysteriously on March 5, 2011. Roger was visiting the park during a cross-country trip with his family, camping at the Flamingo campground. Roger and his wife were in 2 different areas of the grounds. When darkness began to fall, everyone returned to the motor home, all except Roger. A lengthy search commenced, involving the Miami-Dade Fire Rescue, canine units, and air and marine operations. Yet, the outcome was the same as so many other cases. Not a hat, not a shoe, not a single piece of evidence was ever found. The search was further complicated when a park spokesperson wrongly claimed that the family was unwilling to provide a picture of the missing man. This lack of evidence, coupled with the strange environment, led to official consideration of abduction, a detail listed on his NamUs profile. A family member later publicly alleged that Roger and his wife had had a major argument before the trip. Was this emotional turbulence the magnet? Did the intense, localized energy of the Everglades, known for its UFO sightings and strange phenomena, open a pocket where Roger simply ceased to exist? Adding to the Everglades' dark record is the case of Jacob Olivier, who vanished just 5 months later in August 2011. Jacob, a 23-year-old from Texas, was unfamiliar with Florida. His parents didn't even know he was there until 6 days after he disappeared. Park rangers found his green Isuzu pickup abandoned near Pine Glades Lake, inside the park's entrance. Inside the truck was a receipt showing he had driven to the Everglades on August 24th. Jacob had no known associates in Florida, making his trip a profound mystery. His mother initially thought he was staging his own disappearance to avoid parental responsibility for a possible child, but she abandoned this belief when he failed to return months later. The agent on the case searched the area, but the pond was empty, and there have been no confirmed sightings. Jacob was last seen with a mohawk and double-pierced ears. The case remains one of profound uncertainty. Why did two men, unrelated and 5 months apart, vanish without a trace from the same national park, an area already rife with alien abduction theories and reports of strange, non-human entities? Case 7. Ronald Gray and Jeremy Childress, Hunting Tragedies, 2004/2008. We cannot ignore the strange disappearances that occur during hunting trips, where preparedness should guarantee safety. The Nez Perce Clearwater National Forest in Idaho, spanning 4 million acres, was the scene of Ronald S. Gray's disappearance in 2008. Ronald, a 62-year-old retired state police captain and a Vietnam veteran, was an expert in survival. Ronald, known as Ron or Ronnie, opted to stay for a few extra days of hunting alone, a habit he had done before. He was supposed to meet his companions, but he never arrived. An unconfirmed radio transmission was allegedly received, claiming Ronald had hurt his knee and was trying to make it back to camp. But the phone service was non-existent, and Ronald had more than one GPS unit. Despite extensive survival training, the lack of smoke signals, a known distress sign he would have used, suggests he was physically unable to signal for help. Furthermore, there was evidence that someone had been using food stashed by hunters in the area, but no one knew who. Was this a territorial cryptid like a Bigfoot, mimicking human behavior to draw in or confuse rescuers? The element of the cryptid is even stronger in the Tillamook State Forest in Oregon, a smaller park notorious for the Tillamook creature, an 8-foot-tall humanoid often linked to Sasquatch sightings. It was here in 2004 that Jeremy Ivan Childress, an experienced hunter, vanished during an elk hunting trip. Jeremy became separated from his companions after they got lost. He decided to take off by himself, believing he could find the camp. But Jeremy, leaving his overnight equipment behind, never arrived. The search revealed the area was steep, rugged, and populated with many wild animals, but no evidence of foul play ever surfaced. In these Bigfoot territory zones, a simple separation can become a total, permanent removal. Case 8. Laura Mack, Olympic National Park, 2022. Our final case brings us to the present day, proving that this dark phenomenon is still active. The Olympic National Park, a land of glaciers, rainforests, and rugged coast, is a notorious hotspot for UFO sightings and paranormal activity. In 2022, 35-year-old Laura Mack headed into the forest to hike the Enchanted Valley. Laura was an experienced hiker, equipped with a gray backpack and an emergency whistle, but she failed to check in with her boyfriend. Her car was found at the Graves Creek trailhead. Despite a massive effort involving 19 agencies, canine units, and air operations, Laura Mack remained missing. Her vanishing is a perfect, modern example of a missing 411 case. The forest simply swallowed her whole, adding her name to a list that includes Michael Orhold, Jacob Gray, and Christopher Coors. Whether it was the park's resident cryptid, a localized dimensional rift targeting the solo traveler, or an unseen intelligence conducting a continuous pattern of alien abduction, the result is the same. The truth is lost. We urge you, if you enter these vanishing zones, be prepared, be vigilant, and remember that the most dangerous thing in the wilderness might be the thin, invisible boundary between one reality and the next.